Do something, okay, all right.
Good evening, all. Thanks for coming out tonight. Annual POTA SOTA Outdoor Adventure Radio Night. And like everybody, like all the time, I'm gonna ask everybody to turn the ringers off on their phone, turn the volume down, or turn your phones off.
Means me
So
too.
respect to those speaking. Yes, you don't hear your own. Get to with your phone on and the rings are in the meeting, or take it. Nothing. Take a football. Yeah. Anyways, I'd like to do a roll call, and we'll start with myself here. Name is Larry, current president of the club for another month, and live in Long Meadow. And my question tonight is, do you plan on doing any POTA, SOTA, or field activating? And I do, and we'll start tomorrow. Let's go. We'll start with Paul, and we'll work our way around.
Paul, and I'm Lee, secretary, and I'm going to this summer.
That's good. And where is your QTA?
Oh, I'm sorry, Leeds.
Brandy, M1NDY, one fan actually during Hampden. And what am I supposed to say? I'll probably do some photos.
Bill Mountain Road. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
John KM1NDY, Hampden. I was very interested. Part of. Wow, KM1NDY, it's not just a possibility, okay, I'm invited to it. It opens up. You and we run two, it's also, and since I retired, I have very little time. I'm George, KM1NDY from Somers, Connecticut, currently the club treasurer. And if we can get our RV cleaned up enough to stay in, I might do some photos this summer. Carl, KM1NDY, Auburn, and I don't know, entirely possible. I guess. That's my favorite. What you bought a new radio for? I did, so.
So what'd you get?
Everything was. KM1NDY KU from South Hadley, on the board, 0 beat editors, and I don't know, as far as photo, I keep saying I'm gonna try it, but I haven't yet. It's one of these days.
Marvin Turner, a longtime addict for POTA and SOTA. Well, I haven't lived in SOTA, but I POTA a lot. And I live up in Southampton.
Fast Mindy will introduce her stuff. Go ahead, Smitty.
Smitty, KM1NDY out of Westfield. I'm probably gonna be working on my presentation for Hampden. That's gonna be a big one, so I won't have time for photo.
Mike from Ag1, KM1NDY. Probably gonna try, I'll try a lot of other aspects on radio, just to justify on the radio, that's, So, Mike, Philip Bravo, one was the off the mark, camera snap, in public. I will do some photos this year.
Jim, KM1NDY, some POTA, and we'll continue to do that. Also a mountain goat soda, Brandy over there.
Yeah.
So we're pretty active.
Alan, AB1XW from Long Meadow, I'm one of the webmasters, and yes.
Dave and M1NDY. And no sort of photo, help us out get this, maybe we'll just do it. I beat him with AUV, Hampton. What are any plans for it yet for more business, it's a weather balloon?
Oh, another one of those. All right, Beth.
N1BIF, and I have made one soda con.
DPA1HF, let's see, so I did a lot of chasing. I talked to them, and I have gone to some POTA events in Florida, didn't sign up for it, I just hung out, help them, to play and see how things are going. So I am planning on doing a little bit.
Earl?
Katie, what do you do? Earl from Lebanon, and I do some of it.
Larry, KD1RV, Chicopee. Do a lot at the exit on my home station, but, have not tried POTA yet, but plan.
Or you do some field operations. Portable.
Dave, WM1B.
Gary, KM1NDY from Southampton, a farm community. And I will probably be found at the Hampden Pond State Park every other week. So, it's like 2 miles from the house.
Nunzio, KC1GYF, relatively new him, and that's the goal, to get out and play the parks.
KC1OVR, my name's Dave from Southampton, and yes, I will definitely be doing POTA. I'm hunting now. But I have, got everything set up. I think I'm ready to get out there and, try it out.
Perfect.
John B.
John, thanks, John, N1TV.
KC1CXD.
Oh, no, you heard John Z, he's John B.
Okay.
John, N1TV. Don't vote for me, I'm going to focus on.
Now John Z.
Well, I have to apologize. I can't hear anything because my hearing aid was broken. KC1CXD, and, I don't have anything else to add right now. Sorry, I missed everything, everybody.
And in the back playing with the, office stuff is, thanks all for, coming out tonight and, POTA, portable operation. Get out there, there's people that go out there with 100-watt radios. I know somebody that has the time for QRP and goes out on the generator and it's still a lot. Former attended AM Expo last year. Try, but I'm fine with 5 miles. And I'm gonna turn it over to Mindy in just a moment, but, next month is the annual June election. And we still have 2 positions open. One is treasurer and one is, vice president. Okay, so we're looking for somebody to volunteer for those positions. So if you're interested, any of the board members, and we will probably have a guest speaker also next month too. I was talking about field day also. So if you want to attend the meeting, we'll have some fun, and we are also doing a. What are we doing? We're doing a mini flea market.
Oh, wait, are we?
Flea market on?
The flea market's done, but we're not gonna be able to do it in the park.
We'll do it inside.
We're
Okay,
gonna do it inside.
so yeah, there'll be a little flea market table area. So bring stuff, sell stuff,
Or donate to the club and.
or donate to the club and, yeah.
Cool, cool. All right. So,
One other thing I wanted to mention,
yes,
the New England Fuso party is this weekend.
yeah, I was gonna mention that after the meeting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
but I'll let.
I'm gonna let Mindy come up to KM1NDY.
Thanks, Jeff. You haven't heard me yet, though, so.
Came all the way from Boston to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you to the club for buying me some dinner too. I appreciate that very much. So it was nice to be able to hang out. And I actually have to keep my phone on. I'm sorry, I'm on call 24/7, 365 days a year. So my phone is on. Hopefully it does not go off. So I was really glad you did that, Larry, because so I heard who are the POTA activators? So the portable activators. Okay, so we have, and then who are the thinking about becoming POTA activators? Okay, so it's kind of more thinking about it. And then we have our mountain goats. I mean, that's a big, that's a big. No, you're the mountain goat. I'm at 600 and something now, so slowly getting there. Oh, that's true. Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, we're gonna be at the June soda camp out up. Yeah, yeah, and honestly, about a chunk of mine are drive ups too. So I actually have a question. This is a little more, I have two talks because I didn't actually know what to bring. Did anyone see the talk at Ham Exposition? Okay, very few. That's good. Okay, so do you guys want to talk a little more specific about gear, or do you want to talk a little bit more general about the portable radio experience?
How about the portable radio?
Okay, that's kind of what I started thinking, Larry, when I was hearing. So let me just switch talks here. Okay. So when it comes to, and I'm sorry to the videographer, I tend to wander around. So okay. So what radio to me, and we'll get into it, has really become a really transformative experience. We'll get into a little bit about me, but the one thing that I really think that doesn't really get noticed with radio is that it's a great thing to bring your significant others to, and to really make it sort of a family and friend event. And it really affects everyone. It really can if you get involved in it in a certain way, which is kind of what happened with me. So I just wanted to give my ham radio origin story. It wasn't that long ago, and this came up over dinner. I have a little farm in upstate New York. So if you keep going into Schenectady, you'll find my farm, and I live in South Boston. So I drive down 90 back and forth to the farm quite a bit. And my husband and I will caravan out there quite a bit as well. This is the Love's truck stop. So I don't know if you guys are familiar where that is, right over the New York border. Love's. And so, truck stops, what do we have? CB radios, right? So it's only about 8 years ago, I see this wall of CB radios and I'm really intrigued by it. And I decided, okay, well, this would be kind of a fun way for Mark, AA1F, for those who get out there. He does a lot of portable radio and chases to some degree. So I see this little CB radio and I decided, well, Mark and I absolutely need these things. So for $99, I get my first HF QRP rig. And interestingly, actually, right now, some of you you probably won't miss my green van if you leave before me out in the parking lot. But I put the CB radio into my van and broke several of them. And actually, I'm thinking of getting this little one from Radio Oddity because it's kind of cute. I actually like having a CB radio in the van because all the truckers still to this day talk to one another. I don't know how many people get on the air for CB, so you can hear traffic conditions. So why am I talking about CB radio? I think one of the things with portable radio, which is what I'm getting into, is just to kind of challenge what we think of as radio. And that to me, I came in from, I think, a very non-traditional way. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm in the healthcare field. I did not know that ham radio existed. It wasn't anything that I'd ever experienced before. I had no idea this whole world of ham radio existed. When I started looking into radio and thinking about CBs and kept breaking my CBs, and I figured there's got to be more to this. My CB no longer works. It worked. It sat in a hot window. It no longer works. What's going on? I can't fix it. And then I hear about this DXing, and I'm like, why would anyone bother doing this? Where you just get on the air to see how far your transmission goes? It's kind of strange. And then, so got thinking about, well, what about the CB radio? Is it actually a good starter rig? In some ways, I think it is. It's cheap. You can build an experiment with some antennas. You don't need a license. So maybe CB isn't a bad way to get started into radio. So portable ops, though, is really, once I moved past the idea of CB radio and learned about amateur radio, it was the idea of taking my radio with me that really captivated me about radio. And part of that's because I live in South Boston. And that means I don't have a lot of room for antennas. And certainly I don't have good antennas in the city. Does anyone notice anything about this? This is a POTA at Pecumtuck Rock in Deerfield, Mass. I was using a 10-meter double bazooka for SOTA. What do you guys notice? I did try to do a CB activation for POTA. That's actually a CB radio. I did not make any contacts. Oh, was it really? That's I know nothing really about the school or anything. What a weird area. Hopefully I'm not offending anyone, but it's a strange little area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm almost surprised they managed to let you up through all that. It was kind of surprising to me. Yeah.
They have their own area.
Yeah, I think that's what that is, right? Where you activate's right up on their ski hill. And it's pretty easy walk. That's a good starter one for anyone who wants to get out there for summits on the air. And so why do I advocate for portable radio? At least for me, because I like to shout from the rooftops the things that I like. I think it's really accessible. This is a place where with radio, anyone can participate in it. And I want this talk to really sort of prove that, to show that. This is portable radio, and then of course the programs Parks on the Air and Summits on the Air. They're for anyone who wants to get out there and operate. They're fun, they're games, they're competition, they're adventurous. I mean, there's a lot of travel possibility with them. It's kind of a novel thing too, right? There's seemingly endless possibilities, different destinations, different ways to use your radio, different things you can do out there. It's very experimental. You're always trialing new gear. It's creative. There's a lot of different approaches. And so I always put, how many grains of sand? And this was an activation of the CQ Worldwide DX SSB contest at Salisbury Beach. And then the other thing, I always kind of takes a downturn here, but I mean, man, the world's crazy, isn't it right now? I mean, mental health issues are exploding. We kind of need something to ground us. If you look at some of the statistics, these are a couple of years old now, but 22% of adults in Massachusetts have mental illness. Substance abuse disorders is through the roof. There's adults with serious thoughts of suicides, 5% in Massachusetts. Depressive episodes in children, 16%. All sorts of, it's really becoming a tough world to navigate. And when I first put this talk together, it was really about trying to get your spouses or your loved ones out with you. So I put in a slide of the reasons why marriages break up. 40% of first marriages end in divorce. I'm about to hit 30 years together with my husband. But the big one here, for me, that shows up is this lack of shared interests. And that's true of everyone, right? You grow older. So you guys didn't know what you're in for here. It's a dangerous world out there. This is the old days. So I work in Boston and I walk to work. And so when you guys hear, I don't know if you guys hear about Mass and Cass out this way. This is the methadone mile of Boston. And this is also my walk home. So it's the way that I go to get home. And occasionally the cops will ask me if I need a ride home. They've cleaned it up quite a bit, I have to say right now. It's just, so why am I bringing all this up here? Why am I sitting here talking about mental illness and the world? I think radio is just a great hobby to get involved with. It kind of takes you away from everything, doesn't it? And then adding a neat adventure hobby like SOTA and POTA, that's totally accessible and fairly easy to do. I think it's a good way to combat the craziness that is the world. This was hobbies can improve mental health. People with hobbies are less likely to suffer from stress, depression, low mood. Activities that get you out and about can make you healthier and happier, more relaxed. Group activities and team sports, they can improve your relationship skills and communication with others. And so really, these are sort of the things when I think about, why radio? I'm like, because radio makes the world a little bit better place. I don't think I'm preaching. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that here. I mean, who's been in hams for more than 10 years? Probably most of you, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like you're in this hobby for a reason, you know, it's like something's kept you here. And so anyways, from that point of view, let's get going with, you know, what lessons can we learn if we're bringing our significant others, our friends, our family out with us on the road, or just doing it ourselves? So this is a little story of an adventure. That's where we're going to go. And with this, there's a lot of lessons learned and a lot of things that we learn about portable radio, and hopefully this will be a backdrop of showing the way that we approach radio. So Mark and I never plan ahead. Mark is AA1F. That's my husband. And so we never really plan ahead for anything. So about 10 p.m. on a Friday night, we decided that we were going to do a 2-day, 34-point summits on the air activation of 5 easily accessible peaks in Vermont. And are you the only SOTA operator here, or is there other SOTA? Okay, so you know, getting 34 points in a weekend is a hard thing to do, even if you're making it as accessible as possible, meaning driving up. So planning, when you're thinking about going out and operating portable, what do you need to do for planning? Well, it can be as simple as walking down to the park near your house, or it can be a lot more complex. You know, you have to think about what hours you're out there, what hours you're out in the field. If it's SOTA or POTA, is the park going to be open? If you're contesting, what are the hours of the contest? You have to think about your lodging, your itinerary, if you need that. How close are you going to be to your vehicle? How far away? Things to consider when you're first starting off. Is your antenna going to be contained to your car, or do you need a setup in the field? And then I think that's kind of that balance too between embracing the spontaneity of it, but also making sure that you have a list so you don't forget gear. So our goal then with this one was we were gonna activate Killington. We're going to activate Okemo for 10 points, Okemo for 6 points. This was for summits on the air. Mount Ascutney, we're going to do a POTA at Coolidge State Park, where we're going to stay overnight. We're going to make it to the next state to Mount Mansfield, which is a 10-pointer, and then Burke Mountain, which is a 4-pointer, and also coincides with Darling State Park. So this was our itinerary. This is what we're trying to accomplish. So this goal for the weekend was 587 miles, 12 hours and 27 minutes, 34 SOTA points in 2 days. So yeah, we like to do things big, or at least we like to set out thinking, can we make this happen? All right, so when I say make a list, make a list. This is my van. You'll see that out in the parking lot. I love my van, so I talk about it a lot. If it was my van or my husband, just kidding, I'm kidding. So this is I like Salisbury Beach. This was a nice place to go. So this one happened to be the North American QSO party. And I decided the day of, because I was being spontaneous, just to go and set up this is a homebrew actually antenna. This is 49-to-1 on-in. You can maybe see that it comes all the way over to a tree over here. It kind of not nicely, I mean, it's the middle of winter, so it didn't matter too much, but I put it over handicap parking spots, which probably wasn't the best idea, with a Mr. Longarm's pole. And I got all set up and ready for the contest, and I forgot my battery. So I took it all down and went home. So make a list, or you're going to be stuck with no way to power on your radio. I mean, I get mad thinking about it. And then, so, you see I have a mast. So let's talk about how you can set your radio, your antennas up to your car. Of course, I was just talking with someone who uses ham sticks, and perfectly good, real easy way to get on the air. Or there's different sort of mast configurations that you can make. I actually had a hitch put into my van specifically so I could add in mast components. And I supposed to tow things too, but that really wasn't the reason I had the hitch. Somebody made me this little, I don't know, this mast holder. This one's made out of different pintle mounts or different tow hook parts, and then holds one of the extendable fiberglass poles that you see all the time. And it's a pretty good setup. This was Fort Phoenix, and these are elaborate. So if people are just starting out with POTA who might look at this and be like, what are you doing? my idea of, I love to experiment with antennas and different configurations. So you'll see a lot of that as we go through, but this is the Fort Phoenix State Reservation and for the VHF contest. And so I have a 6-meter beam and a 2-meter beam and just rotate them manually over to a radio sitting on the beach. Another mast at Savoy Mountain State Park. This is, and you'll see, I'm also not talking entirely about parks on the air, summits on the air. We like to go out for and operate portable for the different contests. This was for the Portable Ops Challenge. I don't know if a lot of people participated in that one, but we went and gave it a try at Savoy Mountain State Park, set up the fiberglass mast with a couple of different wire antennas. So back to the trip. All right, first place we're going is Killington. And you guys jump in if you have anything you want to say too. This is Killington, so it's 10 points. And when you're on a trip, you got to remember your companions. So we stopped at Keechee Gorge to get some food. Just a reminder that once in a while you need to stop. And my absolutely beloved and now unfortunately deceased soda dog, Nellie, is playing with the moose there. But you just have to keep in mind as you're traveling because, it always ends in fights, I suppose. But you always have also when it's coming to SOTA and POTA, you have to know where you're going and where you're activating. And so if you take a look at Killington, that the activation zone is, you have to know what part is the highest peak, the part of the mountain that you're getting to. So this is the entire Killington complex and the summit is where I'm pointing to right there. Now, the nice part about and so if you're going to operate summits on the air, you have to be a little bit particular. And same thing with POTA about where on the map you actually are at. And so here for summits on the air, you have to be 82 feet from the vertical feet from the summit to be in what's called the activation zone. And so that means in Killington is 4,200 and something feet. So you have to be at 4,154 feet in order to be within the activation zone. So you just have to keep those sorts of rules in mind if you're actually playing SOTA and POTA. POTA, you have to be within the park boundaries. So I bet you would attest, SOTA is a really hard game to play if you're going for the mountain goat, especially in New England. It's just a very, very hard thing to do, in my opinion. I'm now, I don't know, 600 and something points. I've been playing since I became a ham, so it's been about 5 years. And it's just, we do a lot of mountains and feel like some days we're never making headway. And the way that SOTA works, at least points wise, is 800 meters is 1 point. You have to at least reach 800 meters for the prominence. So how high above the surrounding, the height of the mountain, and plus it has to be a certain distance from the surrounding terrain as well. And so 800 meters is how tall a mountain has to be, 26, 25 feet, before you're able to get a point and activate it. So it has to be part of their program. It has to be a recognized SOTA peak. And in Massachusetts, almost all the peaks are 1 point, which means that if you're going for your 1,000 points for your mountain goat, you're hiking 1,000 Massachusetts mountains to get there. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of the challenge you're up against. And then it goes up by every 100 meters, you jump up a couple points until you get to over about 4,000 foot. The 4,000 footers are 10 points. And then parks on the air, like I mentioned, you have to make sure you're operating within the park boundaries. Here's this is Middlefield State Forest, and it's near Peru State Forest. And for a long time, these weren't activated. And I think part of the reason it's really kind of challenging to figure out where those park boundaries are. But Parks on the Air has a lot of different award programs within it. And it's relatively easy. It's a very accessible program to get into. You need to, unlike SOTA, where you want to get 4 contacts when you set up, for Parks on the Air, you have to make 10 contacts once you get on the air in order to get your points. All right, so back to our trip. How are you going to get up to wherever you're going? How are you going to get there? Well, I like the easy way, so we took the gondola up Killington. If there's an easy way, I'll take it. So we took for this trip, we took the gondola up. And that's me, Mark. And the nice part about Killington Oh, Stratton, this is Stratton. Killington's not the same. The nice part about Stratton, if you're going to go up by gondola, I just intermix these two slides purposely to show this. If you have a dog with you, Stratton allows you to take them on the gondola. Killington does not. Just things to keep in mind, because part of this is to show that this is, even if you're doing summits on the air, it's actually accessible. It's something that you can do, even if you're not a hiker, or if you're kind of lazy and don't like walking uphill like me at times. So back to our trip. Here's the top of the gondola, and then there's a little bit of a walk to the actual peak. So you come off the gondola here, and then the trail, I think, is right over this area. And then you go up to the top of the peak in order to activate. So that's a look back down. And here's a nice thing too. You know, you make a day trip out of this. What a nice thing to do with your wife or your husband, your family, to go have a little hot dog or whatever they serve up there on top of Killington and activate some radio. It's really a nice thing to do. It's a good date. So keep that in mind, guys. And so once you get to the top, one thing that's annoying about Killington is there's tremendous amount of RF. So there's a lot of RF interference once you get up there. They refuse to turn the radio towers off for me when I asked. No, I would not. But there's, you know, so you have to be mindful of that up there. But there's another problem up there. It's a very small place to set up. So a lot of people worry about how they set up their antennas. This is looking up the long trail, and you can start to see here, that's my radio set up here. That's the 890. If I have my preference, I'm running 100 watts even on SOTA. And you'll see with this one, there's a lot of driving up mountains. We walk up plenty of mountains too, and we do bring 100 watts more often than that with us. We'll talk a little bit about that. But if you see there's a little orange cord here, that's actually paracord, and these tiny little shrubs, which sit about foot and a half off the ground. I've got my 20-meter end-fed half wave sitting right over the top of these shrubs, trying to be as out of way of like this narrow path and the people as possible. But I kind of I use whatever I can to get an antenna up. With being mindful, especially on a peak, you don't want to trip anyone. You don't want to be in their way too much. And what was interesting about this one was I met another ham up there, recognized instantly that was a Summits on the Air activation. You can see the antenna just a little bit better here. So I don't know, the balin's probably up a little higher and just coming down these little shrubs. They may look like trees here, but they're really tiny, knee-high shrubs.
Can you do portable mast, like the little solo beams or something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yep, I have a fishing crappie pole, but I guess that's what they, not that it's it is a crappie pole too, but it's, but I think that's what they're called, the fiberglass fishing poles that extend. And so I do use that on at times. And then but I actually almost always find a way to set up an antenna without a pole. So it's not, for some reason, it's not my preferred to bring a pole with me hiking. And there's not all that many bald peaks in general. There's usually some trees that get it up. This was just, it's always something to put it on. And then down in the parking lot, the way this worked this day was that Mark stayed down with, on Killington, so the dog wasn't allowed in the gondola, stayed back, and we switched as we went up and down. You have to really make a plan for these things. The easier it is to get up a mountain, the more people are going to be up there. So Killington had a lot of people on there. I've already mentioned the RFI was pretty significant on top of Killington. Of course, my antenna wasn't exactly greatly positioned either. You do not have to walk up every mountain, and antennas do not have to be set up perfectly to make contacts. I think that's one of the most important takeaways of this entire talk, is that usually just getting a wire up will be enough once you spot yourself for SOTA and POTA to make contacts. If you're running, maybe if you're running very limited QRP, you might need a better setup to get that power out, but with a 100-watt radio, you'll be making contacts. And then, figure it out, go up separately if need be, which is what we had to do for this. All right, so now we're heading up to Ludlow. This is a chemo mountain, and this was worth 6 points. So again, this was another, and keep in mind too, if you guys want little adventures, because here, this walk was only 0.3 miles from the parking lot. So another good one for not a very far walk, and you get 6 soda points. So things that I like at times. And no, just this is actually a little bit more traditional setup. Again, we're running 891, 15 amp hour Bio-NO, LDG Z100 plus tuner. Always have our handy talkies with us, paracord. And if I'm walking up Tecumseh or something like that, that's often what we bring as well. So it's not this set of this set of gear. We don't really go much lighter weight, and we do have the radios for it. It's so much fun to have 100 watts on a mountain. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. So it's nice to have with it. And I actually, the other thing too is that we actually bring up pretty heavy coax, 50-foot RG8X. Yes, I heard that. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? 16 pounds worth of gear. I have a KX2. I have little CW, the true SDX. I have no, but the 891 is the bomb. That is such a great radio. Who has an 891? You guys know what I'm talking about. That radio is great. So I like 100 watts. There we go. That's my idea of power. I mean, 12, once you get to 1500 watts, that's like crazy talk. But there's really very few. You don't have a lot of choices when it comes to backpackable radios for 100 watts. So the 891 is really about it out there, in my opinion. And then you do have we're just talking about the Xiegu, the G90, and that's a very popular SOTA radio, POTA radio as well, 20 watts. And I think the only problem with that, it's actually a little heavier, if I remember right, than the 891. Something to keep in mind if you're out there buying batteries though for your SOTA and POTA, your Bio-NO batteries need to be at least 12 amp hours or greater in order to run that full 100 watts due to the current draw. So it's more than 20 amps that 891 will be drawing. So you check your specs on the batteries before you buy it, because you may not be able to run the full 100 watts. And if that's important to you, which it is to me, then you might need to, you want to just be careful of that. Our entire radio kit for the 100 watt radio is over 15 pounds. And for this trip, we used 2 15 amp hour Bio-NO batteries, and that lasted the whole trip easily. Yeah, I think I might have some. Yeah, I think I have pictures in this one coming up. If not, it would have been the other talk. So, but yeah, I have a folding 60 watt panel that'll put like 2.5 amps out. I can show a picture of it later if it's not this one. So we actually do walk sometimes if we have to. I'm sort of teasing. We walk a lot actually, but this is a backpacking trip of Mount Whiteface and Passaconaway with the 16 pounds of radio gear. And that's our little tent and our backpacks and then we also travel. This is, I don't know how many people backpack with a bear can or if they throw them in trees, but I don't know. I like bringing, even though it's 3 pounds, I like to bring a bear canister with me for all of our foods in there. Oh, look at that. So solar panel. This is unfortunately, you can't get this one anymore. It's really a neat little fold-up thing. So here's the 15 amp hour Bio-NO, which a lot of people have probably seen for comparison about how small this folds up to. But it's a Sun Kingdom folding panel, but unfortunately, I don't think it's available anymore. And Renogy, you need a charge controller for that. And you need a charge controller. You have to make sure your charge controller is available for a lithium battery if you're going to go with solar. So you go, yeah, okay, good. This one does show, that was good timing for that. So this was another camping trip, and this is good for the RVers or the campers. This was a 1-week trip at Outer River State Park. I essentially just stayed there, and Mark came and went as he went about his business, but I stayed at the campground with my 2 batteries and charged them up one at a time. That's a nice strategy for charging your batteries, but I would get 2 amps, so 15 amp hour battery, that would be about what, 7 hours to fully charge if it was in full sun. And you can see with this setup, you have to keep chasing the light if you're in a situation where you have a lot of shadows around, but that's what I do. And for a week, I was able to keep 2 batteries on the air with quite a bit of use, actually. We did a lot of POTA at that park. Oop, but now back to our trip, and this time no amount of Scutney for us because we ran out of time. So this was the only one we didn't manage to accomplish. But now we had to head off to Coolidge State Park, where we're gonna do set up for POTA overnight. And here we are. So we got to the campground. And so, what's that? Is there?
To get up there.
Oh yeah, yeah, to get the picture. Yeah, they so if you're gonna go off on one of these adventures, of course you gotta think about where to stay. Who are the campers? I definitely know there's some RVers because we were talking about it. And so I obviously a hotel and motel is an obvious choice, but there's a lot of camping really can be a lot of fun. And I think one thing with camping is that people make it too hard. Nice part about camping is there's bathrooms, often at the state campgrounds at least. So Vermont, if you guys haven't camped up there, does have beautiful lean-tos. I mean, they just have their state parks have gorgeous lean-tos, and they're pretty easy to get. So anyways, when we go into a park, and this is something to think about too, just if you're going for the day and you're setting up for POTA. There's a lot of talk about getting wires up into the air and can you use the trees? And we never ever have problems using the trees. No one ever really cares. There's never been a situation where anyone's ever saw our antenna and cared that there were wires in the trees. And here we set up both a 40-meter end-fed half wave, so 67-foot antenna, and then an 80-meter OCF, so 140-foot antenna, whatever that works out to be, the 80-meter OCF, right in our campground plot. I mean, this is what we do pretty regularly. We have no problems with it. And so we set up our antennas and got on the air most of the night. And you can see they're really nice lean-tos. Again, and Vermont just has beautiful lean-tos. So it makes camping pretty easy. I like to have a tarp in front of my lean-to in a campground. You'll see the tarp references come up over and over again. Just more lean-to pictures. This is Bear's Den Conservation Area in Athol, which is a beautiful place that has lean-tos that you can rent. In fact, actually in Bear's Den, I mentioned that we like to do contesting. This was the North American QSO party that we rented or, really reserved the lean-to for and set up 3 different radio stations. And we're on the air for quite a while overnight, really, for that. And so that's the other thing too. I mean, so now you want to do SOTA or POTA, especially POTA, but you want to do it as a club or you want to do it as a group event. Have you guys done SOTA or POTA as group events? Yeah. Yeah, so it's a heck of a lot of fun to do. Do you guys have a set of bandpass filters for the club for field? Yeah, for like field day or whatever. So bandpass filters in your radios and you're pretty much good to go for group activation. And again, for anyone who's paying attention to what I like my setup to be, this is the 857, the 891. Can't get the 857 anymore. 15 amp hour bio-NO and the LDG Z100 plus tuner again. So group activation. So this was one that we did back. This was 2021 and set up at Houghton Pond and Blue Hills with a big turnout. Got a lot of people get on the air for that. Prospect Hill WX1S was just on Prospect Hill activating today. And just a note too, when I go out into the field at all, I bring a tarp with me because it never fails that it's either going to rain or if it's 1% rain on this, it's 100% for us. So we always bring a tarp and I just kind of harp on tarps over and over again. This is Kearsarge. And again, we couldn't drive up this one, unfortunately. It's a small hike. But this was a day where it was 0 degrees in Boston. I'm not even sure what it got down to in Kearsarge. So it was really a pathetically cold day up there. All right. But anyways, bring a tarp with you if you're going to be outside to both shelter yourself and to shelter your equipment. So Coolidge State Park. So again, I think this antenna idea is one of the things that keeps people from activating, I think. Of course, you can use your vehicle, just put something on the parking lot, like one of those 17-foot whips that MFJ, I guess they're not going to exist anymore, but the MFJ whips on a tripod magnet base on your car does wonders. You can get on 20 meters with that. You can make good contacts with that. But if you're going to leave your car and go into the park, putting wires up really isn't a problem. And my advice is get them in the trees as fast as you can. So however and then once they're up, no one knows they're there. You can't see these antennas really well. Once they're up, you're kind of good to go. No one pays any attention to them. So again, this is the 40-meter unfed half wave and an 80-meter OCF. And I mean, here you go. I'm pointing out where the antennas are here. I think the bail-ins I'm pointing to, and you really can't notice them at all. And this is where, who's the digi-modes, folks? So after quiet hours, it's a little, unnerving to be yelling into your radio on a campground. This is really where your FT8 and other digital modes come in, or if you're gonna put headphones on with CW. And now you can see some of my other equipment coming in. I did bring the ICOM 705. So it's not that I don't have non-100 watt radios. So that's a pretty heavy radio too. This is the cheapo Maestro $60 computer that was making its rounds. Then I guess I still wanted 100 watts because I was using a 100 watt amplifier for my 705. And then yeah, the RM Italy. Yeah. I also, is it RM Italy that I have in my car? I have a VHF that might be RM Italy too, but yeah, it works fine. And I mean, as far as I know, it's not splattering much, but I haven't done a lot of spectrum analysis for it. All right, so lessons from a campground, right? You need to eat, so just get a pizza. It'll be there the next day. And that's what I had for dinner tonight too. So you can see a little bit of a trend. Digi modes for quiet hours. Tarps are awesome. Bugs are your friends. And one of the things that keeps, and again, when I first did this talk, it was really to try to urge guys to take their ladies out with them. There's bathroom needs can be really sensitive. So always keep that in mind when you're bringing somebody out in the field with you. Not everyone's as comfortable as others out there. All right, any questions so far? Anything you guys want to talk about? So we're going north. We're gonna head off to Mount Mansfield, Stowe, and we're looking at now 10 SOTA points. So to get to Mansfield, another accessible mountain, but kind of a decent hike even once you're up there. So Mansfield, you can drive up an auto road. You can also I think you can take a gondola and then hike to the top of it as well. But I think it's a pretty steep hike from where the gondola drops you to, it's kind of on this face, I think, up to the top. So if you drive up, it's about a 3-mile hike round trip, I believe. And it starts, you're going here. You're going to the hump that you see there. And then this is, so when you're out there in the field, you always have to think about whether protecting yourself and your equipment and whether or not it's a good idea to activate a radio on a bald mountain in a storm. Something to keep in mind though. I can't say that I don't. We could watch the rain coming in while we're on Mansfield, but let me say it's 10 points, you just don't want to leave that on the table. So we knew there was a chance that we weren't hearing any thunder. We knew there was a chance we were going to get wet, but so far we were okay. Mount Mansfield, I mean, there's always rules. The more people hike a summit, the more rules there are. And what I found extremely bizarre, and maybe you guys are more used to this than me, but on Mount Mansfield, in order to keep you on the path of the bald mountain, somebody laid out 3 miles of strings. I mean, it was really one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I mean, all I could think of is what a tripping hazard, but the entire trail is laid out with these strings so you wouldn't step on the floor up there. Yeah.
What did you do for an antenna
It's like I think you're a plant. Yeah, no, we're about to tell, it was terrible is what it was. Wait do you see this? I am a firm believer, especially with 100 watts. You see my little 891 or cranking away here. It's actually marked. Oh no, it's mine because you can tell by the tuner. So I'm a big proponent of terrible antenna setups. You can see my backpack here. And so I took a 20-meter unfed and tossed it off the cliff. So that was my setup. It did not work very well, but I got my 4 contacts. I think we did get one in VHF too. Yep, so that's I just beanered it to my backpack and off it went. Yeah, so I also I really like creative use of antennas. So I like to I don't think in terms of perfection. Sometimes I get a bigger kick out of how bad they can be. Someone somewhere hears you. So again, when you're talking rules, I think a lot of things that stop people from going out in public and putting up antennas and playing radio is they're worried about getting in trouble. So I think there's a lot of, I mean, hams tend to be pretty big rule followers in general. They're not one, in my opinion, they tend to they stay in the lane. They stay in those string lanes, you know, so they don't want to get it. They don't want the police coming up to them. They don't want the rangers coming up to them. They worry about what the letter of the rule is. Well, most of the rangers, and I've encountered quite a few, are really fascinated by radio to the point where they want to learn more about it because they're concerned with their own communications out in the woods. And we've had that experience quite a few times where it just really sparked conversations. And these days, a lot of the rangers are well aware of POTA and SOTA. So it's less and less often that they're surprised by what you're doing. This is Mount Whiteface, or this, I'm sorry, Whiteface Mountain in New York. And I had a discussion with the ranger up there, and there was no flag on the pole, but she let me use the flag to set up my antenna. So, you know, if you're just nice to the rangers and explain what you're doing, and there was no flag, I would never take it down if it had a flag on it, but it did not have a flag, and I just used it to launch my antenna. So, you know, just if someone approaches you, just discuss it with them. I found through these talks that it's one of the #1 things that people worry about is, I think, you know, getting in trouble with the fuzz when it comes to getting their antennas on the air. And they know what you're doing, you know, they'll come over and ask you if they're worried about it. Just talk to them. All right, so lessons from Mount Mansfield. So even if you drive up a mountain weather is tough. So be careful. The weather may impact you, even if, you know, the mountain weather can be really fickle. They can have a lot of fussy rules, and the more popular the mountain, the more fussy the rules. And then, of course, the crappy antenna deployments, why I like 100 watts. And, you know, these things always take a little bit longer than you think. So you're always spending more time trying to make your 100 watts work with an antenna hanging down a cliff than you'd like to think. And then finally, it's 5 p.m. Can we make it to our last stop, which is Burke Mountain? This is for 4 SOTA points. This is a pure drive up mountain in northern Vermont. And it's part of Darling State Park, so it's also a parks on the air. And right now we're really kind of cutting it close. Did I put what time we were leaving? Oh, 5 p.m. Yep, so 5 p.m. we had to get from Mansfield over to Burke. And it's 7 p.m. and the gates are going to close at 8 p.m. So again, racing time. We recently got locked into a park that we overstayed our time at. We got locked into a couple in our time together. So be mindful of the times the gates close, especially when it's winter. They may have different hours and not post them very well, which is what happened to us. We had to call the police to have them let us out. But anyways, Burke Mountain was not the case. We made it up. We activated SOTA and POTA up at the top of Burke Mountain. A very fast, extremely fast deployment. This is a really great, I think that this is a really great antenna. It's a radio waves 20-meter end-fed half wave. It's a 20-meter end-fed half wave. It's not a very long antenna, which is what's nice about it. 20 meters is a great band for portable ops. I'm sure most of you, I know I'm preaching to the choir with that, but it's really, you're going to find most of your portable ops in a lot of ways on 20 meters, it seems. preferably. And the nice part about it, if you think about it, is that we will go up there and we'll spot ourselves. So we don't have to have great antennas. You guys do. So, yeah.
When you're in maybe tight quarters like that,
Yep.
looking at doing a vertical, like a Wolf River coil or something instead.
No, I don't, I personally don't. Do I have any pictures of the, I don't particularly like the verticals, but it's me. It's a Mindy thing. It's not a, they work great. I have but the radials are killer on that though. I mean, I think. So
If you're on 20, you don't have to worry about it.
oh, because is it pretty well resonant on 20 without,
Yes, if you're just using like the 7-foot plane
okay.
on it.
Okay, so and then another part is of my own ignorance. I haven't played with verticals all that much. I've been really a fan of wire antennas since I started. The 17-foot whip on the tripod on the car works great. That's a really without anything extra. So that's a really nice setup without having any, if you're gonna stay local. The other one is there's some Chinese clone, right, that they're using. What is it? Charligate? Okay.
JNC radio.
Okay, yeah. So that was, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of really good things about that as well. We ordered another one that for the car, though you could just set it up. It's just the radials get me. And it might just be I haven't used it very much. You guys like verticals in general? You like setting up with? Okay.
It kind of depends on the spot where you're at. So.
Yeah. I'll tell you, well, I don't know if I'll have it. I can always get an antenna up. Like it's like a mental challenge to me. So like I can always get a 20-meter and fed half-wave up. Doesn't like you could challenge me anywhere. If you're like you put one up here, I'd have it on there. It's and I say that even my husband is I think did the radar, the POTA radar. He did all 12, but I was his backup putting antennas in throughout like Boston. The places we put antennas were crazy through some of the parks. So I personally think a 20-meter end-fed half-wave used creatively is a slick antenna, and I can get it up anywhere. But it's not always great, you know, like hanging over a cliff isn't perfect. And I have the crappy pole if I want to put it up higher. I just hardly ever use it. And at this point, I know the mountains that we go on. I have experience with them, so I know kind of what I'm going to do with them. To do Mansfield again, maybe I'd bring a pole. Okay, so lessons from Burke Mountain. Another things to talk about, you know, we're talking about bringing friends and family or getting out there. Road trips are really stressful, especially if you're trying to kind of bite off more than you can chew. So Mark and I were fighting by the time we got to Burke over totally insignificant stuff. So my advice, just work it out and move on. I'm always slow and I'm always late. That's just classic, pretty classic. Though I did make it on time technically to the dinner tonight. Just I couldn't believe actually because it was a 2-hour drive from Boston in rush hour. But so speed counts sometimes, and and the rapid deployment of amateur radio, it's a thing. POTA has the radar awards. This is Mark's Lion Award for his 12 parks. And if you were to look up these parks, actually, I think I have a post someplace that shows the antenna placements because I just get so proud of how of putting up the wire antennas, all with a 20-meter unfed half-wave. So our goal was 587 miles, 12 hours, 27 minutes, 34 SOTA points. How do we do? We have 543 miles, 11 hours, 5-minute trip, 30 SOTA points, and 2 POTAs. So we did pretty good. It really is an extraordinary hobby. I think portable ham radio, it's my favorite part of it. It's extraordinary. It's so versatile. It's fun. It's an incredible shared experience. It's really a neat thing to be a part of. Things to just point out is with portable radio and getting outside and playing radio, every single time you set up a radio portable, it can be an adventure. Even if you're just setting up in your own backyard, we'll set up for contests and whatever in our backyard. If you give yourself a little bit of a goal for your adventure, then it gives you context to that journey that you're gonna have. So it really can add a lot of spice, I think, to whatever you're doing. That's why I see radio as spicy. You want to take into the consideration the comfort levels of all of your participants. If you guys are going to do a group, I mean, you know this from field day, so it's kind of similar. If you're going to do a group field day, I mean, a group POTA, be mindful that you want everyone to have a pleasant experience. You know, you don't want to push it too far unless people are up for that. Weather happens, so be prepared, especially on the mountains. That's when you can get into a dangerous situation quickly. Keep a tarp with you or some tent, something, keep it in your car, some paracord or sleeping bag, and then you can always camp whenever and wherever you want. Access to bathrooms can really make or break the experience for some people, so keep that in mind if you're doing group activities. Have fun, and even if you argue, work it out, get back on with your adventure. And one of the biggest points is, and I hope this sort of proves it, the way that I discuss this is don't overthink it. You guys want to get out there and do POTA? I heard as you're going through, oh, you know, a little bit of hesitation maybe, or a little needing a push. You don't need it. Just go out and do it. If you make, it's no big deal. Make mistakes, who cares? You know, just get out there and do it. That's about it. Thanks, everybody. Any questions or anything you want to talk about?
I have a question about, the tennis.
Yeah.
What sort of techniques do you use to get the wire in the trees?
Also, not really. I mean, almost anything that'll work, but what I like is having a throw weight. And so this is the other crazy part, right? You will appreciate this. Mark carries a 14-ounce throw bag with him up mountains. So all this driving up stuff, we walk up a lot of, and Mark brings 14 ounces extra weight. I'm like, you're nuts. And then he'll sneak it in his bag, even if I was to be like, just use a water bottle or something. And no, he marches it right up with him. But I personally like I use a technique, a paracord attached to a throw bag and have a little winding technique. And I can pretty easily get that up. By 30 feet, it's probably I'm losing accuracy, but I can get it to 30 feet fairly well on a bear bag style. I know there's that other technique where you're kind of like this and throw it over your head, and I just wind it and send it up.
Have you ever had a problem parking the van somewhere, coming back and find the windows aren't all in there or anything?
Not yet, and I think it's because my van's really creepy. I think I do a few. Yeah, I actually, yeah, and they can't, and people, I put one of the orange vests on my seat too, and I think people don't really know. I think it's creepy to people, so that's my hope, is that they see it and they're like, I better pass this one by. That's my hope with my van.
For your 100-watt activation, are you doing most of the sideband?
Yeah, you know, so yeah, I do sideband mostly, but I also do CW. So these two talks are sort of polar opposites when you see so I've been doing more CW activations. Sometimes I just want to get it done. Sometimes after a long hike, I just want the 4 contacts and call it a day, and I'm not very good at CW. So it's after putting aside the driving up, after hiking up, 10 miles, sometimes I just want to get it done. Yeah.
What was the most unusual or odd thing that we ran into or happened to you guys on an
The most, okay, so we were up on, all right, let me get the mountain straight. This one, Blackhead and Black Dome. Blackhead and Black Dome, did you ever hike those? In New York, it'd be W2. Yes. Those are for people who like to hike, that you can get 20 points. It's a pretty good day hike for that. But it's so we get up to the top. And I mean, and those are 4,000 footers, so they're not actually small. They're not small peaks. So that's a 20-point day. You hike Blackhead, you hike Black Dome, and then 20 pointers. But at the top, there was this bizarre giant rabbit I don't, I feel like I'm hallucinating when I think of the thing was like this big. It was fearless. I don't know if it was like a pregnant bunny. I don't know what it was doing. It's sitting at the top of the mountain, this giant rabbit. I have to say that was one of the weirder things. It's like a hallucination. I'm like, I think I'm fine, but there's a giant bunny here. I'm like, Mark, you are seeing this, right? Yeah, it was really bizarre, but there's probably many more, but the giant bunny is the first one that came to mind with your question. He was fearless. He didn't care we were there. I've never seen anything like it.
Get visited by any bears?
So in my adult life, who's seen a bear out in the wild? You know, I'm in the woods. I really am. And again, we don't drive up all of them all the time. I saw my first bear in the wild driving to one of the state parks in Massachusetts just to hang out overnight, probably for a contest. But I've never seen a bear in the wild. I've seen scat. I've seen claw marks. I've seen. Oh, did you really? Oh, that's why you are like, we saw a bear. Oh, did you really? Wow. No, really?
The ARL letter for the week.
Oh, was it real? That is hysterical. That's,
Backyard.
I don't, how am I not able to see any bears? I'm sure they see me. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In my garage, I have on my porch.
I never see them. Yeah, that's probably true. So I'm walking to work. Two men walk into the bar, one after another. You think the second guy would have saw it? You'll get it. So anyways, I was walking to work and all of a sudden the dog runs out of nowhere. I'm like, nobody's with this dog. I'm like, that's a coyote. So we did get infiltrated by coyotes last year. I think they took care of them.
UFOs.
Yes. Yeah. Yes is the answer to that with SpaceX. Yeah. Yes. Do you guys know what I'm talking about with that?
It's settling.
But do you, with the drive, so did you guys?
Dragon.
That I don't know exactly what, I think they were launching, but I don't really, so we were on Garfield. I have pictures of this one too. I can dig this one up, but we're on Garfield and I think it coincided with a SpaceX launch, but I'll be darned. I honestly, that's the only association I know of. We're driving down 93 and there's a giant triangular light that we thought was a helicopter searchlight. And then it turned and went away, like all kind of slow. I've got pictures of this one. I mean, I like giant rabbits, the UFOs. Yeah, I know the impression I'm giving. Yeah, that one I may find for you guys. I wish I had the picture. Yeah. No, I don't even drink. No, no, clean and sober.
I could talk for hours, of course.
I know. Yeah, trail tales. 408, is that what it is? Yeah. Wow.
I think you're power crazy.
I know.
I don't think I've ever used, I think once I used 30 watts because I took a take speed up.
Yeah.
On the hill.
All CW though, right? Yeah.
96% CW.
Yeah.
But
I'm popping this up while
if you're on the SOTA summit, usually you don't have to have a very good antenna, because way up above it. Right. But I would say that you can operate a 100-watt radio at 30 watts. And you still do just as well.
You know, and use a little smaller battery. Is that what you're thinking?
3 amp hour battery left.
Okay. It's more, I mean, so this is my other set. Okay. So I gave you one impression. This is the tree. It is 316. It is 316. And then it's the true SDX, the Venus 3B, a homemade, that's a homemade linked, linked 20, 30, 40 dipole. And this whole thing's like 5 pounds. So I do actually carry lighter weight radios up. I gave you a kind of a one-sided perspective. I prefer the 891 and I'm not very good at CW. So that's some of my holdback. Keep doing it. Yeah, yeah. You know, I don't hear it I really don't hear it very well. I just don't. I don't hear it very well. I keep trying, but
Not like contesting, you know, people will slow down,
yeah,
and it's not 35.
it's still like I'm trying. I'll give it that. But
Any other questions for Mindy?
And when you're at, Salisbury Beach, the
Yep.
state park, parking lot there.
Yep.
How was the operating there?
oh, that's beautiful. Salisbury, yeah, is beautiful.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, it's beautiful. In the off season, the tail season,
We've gotten all.
there's no one there though. Like the tail season, there's no one there. So we set up so we'll look at we'll go the night before and we'll pick a camping spot. And we'll go ahead and set up 80-meter OCF right across like the entire, and there's no one there, no one cares. Yeah. So we have great operating there on, especially in the off season in the winter. You can,
Oh, try it out.
yeah, definitely do it. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
Anyways, thank you very much, Mindy.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, thanks, guys.
A small token of our appreciation.
Oh, thanks so. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
Mindy, if you just wanna leave that
Okay.
microphone up on the table there, right, your microphone.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right there.
Okay, just a few more announcements and other things and we'll get going. So as I mentioned, we're looking for volunteers for the board. If anybody wants to step up, please let us know. Doesn't take a lot of effort to be a board member. Just somebody who wants to volunteer and who will comment on things that are going on and have ideas and such. Let's see, if you like the coffee and donuts, we can thank Smitty for that. Paul, you want it? Oh, he's gone. Okay, he's back. He's back. The 10-meter net goes on Monday nights, 28,375 at 7 p.m. There's anywhere from 4 to 10 check-ins, and so hop in there and say hi. And there's usually a subject every week or an open forum, and it's always a lot of fun. So, Alan, you want to talk about the New England QSO party now?
QSO party is this weekend. If you haven't done it, good. You've got one again. It's a great contest. If it's your first contest, great contest. If you've done a bunch of them. I've got a couple other things going on. I'll work fairly casually at it this weekend. Starts at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then goes from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then there's a break. It starts up again at 9 the next morning, civilized hour. And then it runs Sunday, overlaps with the Indiana QSO party, the Delaware QSO party, the 7th All Area QSO party, which is basically the whole west of California. And there's also an Italian contest on at the same time that likes their numbers. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch going on the air and casual contest. Last year, I pioneered a category that has been defined in the rules since the beginning, but nobody had ever heard before. So I'm now a record holder in the NE. You are mobile.
Oh, that's a challenge.
Which mobile and portable is the same. So in line with evening's topic, what I did was I went to POTA on Sunday, contractors for Sunday. 11 contacts from Windsor Fox House Park. That is my record, and you are going to work from. If you're going to go with activate any kind of park or portable application somewhere, you will undoubtedly break my record by making more than 11 contacts. So that a try.
Cool. NEQP.org, you can go online and learn more about it. The club sponsors a plaque for this. Am I interrupting you guys?
Sorry. What was that?
The club sponsors a plaque for this, low power for Hampden County. I know this year or last year, Mike and KM1NDY won it. So maybe somebody can beat Mike this year and get the plaque. Paul, you want to talk about outgoing QSL cards?
The last batch went, the next batch will go out, probably mid to late, June.
Okay.
So, and if you saw the article that those of you who are on DX Labs, got no excuse now because just read this month's zero.
But those of you that are in the Euro, there's another card. So,
Oh, cool.
so they'll be getting cards in the one.
It's always fun getting QSL cards. I love that. If you look around the room, there's a lot of people wearing shirts, vests, jackets, badges, HCRA wear. The badges are $13 delivered to you. Shirts and jackets and everything else are all sorts of different prices. We have hats too. So you can look your best when you're not only at the meetings, but when you go to other flea markets and conventions and stuff. And let's see here. Does everybody reading Zero Beat? For Zero Beat, that is doing a great job. And let's see here. Do we have any other announcements?
You want to mention anything about South Field Day? Yeah, so Josue, primary organizer for Field Day this year. I'm out with it. We're hoping to have a pretty active field day. We'd like people to sign up and show up. The more people we get, the better it is. We'd like to be able to put up a tower.
People.
Put up a tower and take the tower down, and also operate the radio that's connected to that tower. So all that,
We have to sign up this.
we don't have a sign up list yet.
We'll put it on the groups.io
We'll be
and
discussing this on the email reflector. Finally,
I hope to work W1NY from Jekyll Island in Georgia.
yeah.
In between my sister's wedding party stuff. And let's see here. Any other last minute announcements? Well, Ham Expo's coming up August 22nd to 25th in Marlboro. I can tell you, because I'm on 3 committees, that we've got some fantastic speakers. I think Mindy is talking again about something. And we have some other speakers. It's not officially announced yet. We can't officially print it yet, but there will be a contest university sponsored by K3LR on Friday afternoon or Friday. There's some club stuff going on Friday. There's a comedian Thursday night, and Flex Radio and Elecraft are committed to being there. And we have a whole bunch of other vendors that will be there too. And we're working on the big 3 still, but the more people that attend, the easier it'll be in the following years to get the bigger vendors to come out. Right now, we've got about 3 times as many vendors as we did last year, and we still have 4 or 5 months to go. Flea market, I'm sorry?
I was just asking who's going to campaign.
Oh, Dayton, yeah, well, hey, who's going to Dayton this year? I went last year.
I get somebody going.
I can tell you who else is going, but I'm not going. I went last year. It was a great time. And came home with the 3 of us that went, 2 of them came home with COVID. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. We'll see you at the June meeting. Hope to hear you on the air this weekend for NEQP, and have a great weekend and a safe drive home and get on the air.
Thank you.